Verse 15 says, and this is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third story shalt thou make it. Which brings me to my fifth point, which says follow God's instructions. When we follow God's instructions, if God directs you to do something, you must listen and obey God. God told Noah to build the ark. He was listening to God's instruction because God was warning him that the earth was wicked and that he was going to send a destruction to the earth because of the corruptness and the hardness of man's heart, and he had to send destruction. And he had to send destruction. And God will give us instructions and will tell us to go this way or that way, to follow his commandment. To tell, just like God told Noah God told Moses to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. He followed his instructions, and after all the plagues came, eventually he gave in and let the people go. And Noah did what God instructed him to do, to hold his staff or his rod above the water, and the water parted and the people was able to get across in time. So listen to God's instruction, because the water will come and God will instruct you as to what you do. You will see that God will tell people, put up your red cloth. He is saying to put up your red cloth now to your door. Because what is to come here, you have to be ready and prepared. Preparation is key. It is just like when you're in school and the teacher tell you to study your book. Now some people might study and some people might not study. The teacher ain't say you having a test, but then when you come to school the next day, you find out a pop test. Oh, and he's like, what? Where does test come from? You want to tell us we having a test? But that's just how it is. You have to be prepared. And behold, I do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under the heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. So we must remember that before the flood comes, you might see death come to your family. You might see God take certain people home before the flood comes, because he doesn't want them to go through it. At that time, Methuselah died before the flood came. He was the oldest man in the Bible, correct?
Yes.
And he died before the flood came. God didn't want him to go through that, so he sent him home. So you will see, don't be a bit surprised if some of y'all get a call saying, oh, you know Grammy dead. But that's God's way of protecting them, because he don't want them to go through the stress and the pain and suffering, because now they have a lot to worry about. They have a lot to worry. They say, this person doing this, and now I got to worry about this. So he will send them home to keep them safe from all harm and danger. And which brings me to my next point. After you would have followed God's instructions, Genesis chapter 6 and verse 18 says, but with thee I will establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. We must first establish a covenant with God once we got the warning. Establish a covenant with God. Make sure that when you establish a covenant with God that you have prayer, fasting, and you and your family come together as one and you pray and you're all on one accord. Now Noah and his family was on one accord, so they was able to get the mission done. That was to build the ark. And he was preparing them for the flood, and which is why you need to get your house in order, your spiritual house in order as well. It is not only talking about a physical house, but it's talking about a spiritual house. You must get your house in order. Because when that flood comes, if your house ain't ready, much less if your spiritual house ready, you good. But if your physical house ain't ready too, then what can happen? Your roof can tear off because you didn't do what God tell you to do. God says this to you. He said, continue to do your preparations like you always doing. You doing the roof now, continue to prepare and do your preparations. Because you see what is coming and I see what is coming and we can't escape it. No escaping this one. And that's why he is telling you to prepare now, because what is to come, you don't want to have to be there last minute doing what you could have done already because you was prepared. Yeah. And especially in a case like this, where we have a real natural disaster coming, ain't no way you could be preparing last minute. You have to be prepared from early. And it says, and of every living thing, of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. And they shall be male and female, of the fowls of their kind, and the cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. Amen. And take thou unto thee all that is eating, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus Noah did according to the command God commanded.